Oh, it's really such a delight to see old friends, new friends. Thank you for supporting this work and for being curious. What did I spend 4 years doing? Writing this book, with so much help from lots of people in our community who are acknowledged in the book, and even beyond. I didn't acknowledge the school that I work for, which is in Asheville, Daoist Traditions College of Chinese Medicine. I'm not sure how I left that out, but that played a huge role and influence in my life and in this work. So thank you, Patricia, for that very thorough introduction. This way I don't have to do it for myself. I do want to let people know a little bit about my purpose in writing To Be Like Water. So in working with patients and students and myself, my own journey through Chinese medicine, which I share in the book through memoir, it became very evident to me that when we have a handle on our medicine, whatever medicine we choose to use, if we can understand it, if we can understand the strategies and the guidance, the essence and the root of that guidance, we have a lot more leverage with that tool of medicine. So as I had been thinking, gosh, what can I do as a kind of a legacy to share my understanding of Chinese medicine with people so they can empower themselves to have a medicine that they can call their own. They'll work with these very foreign concepts from China that have been brought to the West, and how can we assimilate them for ourselves and really get some powerful medicine. My teacher, Jeffrey Yuen, he frequently will say that Chinese medicine is simply applied Chinese philosophy. And of several philosophies that have influenced the medicine, Taoism is one of the most important, most influential, at least to me. My perspective of Chinese medicine is from a Taoist perspective. And there are lots and lots of books on Taoism. I have a few here. They're not thin little simple reads. They're pithy and they're quite poetic. Again, not a small commitment to try to understand it. So I wanted to create something that was accessible, digestible, easy to assimilate, something that people could build on as they were working with their health. And so one of the things that makes this medicine so beautiful is that it's poetic and it is told in story form. So I thought, well, I could tell my story. My book could be partly memoir so that it had some appeal to the layperson. Maybe you can see yourself in some of the stories and you can identify and connect with the Taoist tenets that are in here, but they're shrouded in, Margot bumping along in her life, trying to figure it out, who she is. And then the other part of the book is actually sharing a therapeutic method that comes from Chinese medicine that's quite old. That was one of the main texts that records it, to my understanding. I'm not a scholar of Chinese medicine. Was written in the 600s. So this is ancient medicine, but it has tremendous application in the modern world. And so that's what I wanted. That was my purpose in writing the book. I wanted to find a way to share the medicine with you, that you can use it as your own medicine and you can build on it. This Daoist tradition is also an oral tradition. So the beauty of having an oral tradition is kind of like the game operator. You can hear the medicine, but then you interpret it your own way, and then you share that with someone else. So it's a living, evolving medicine. And so I hope as you read the book, you take it in and you find how it fits or doesn't fit with you, what you'd like to add. It's almost like a recipe, how you would change the recipe of this medicine to make it fit just for you. And then you pass that along. So it just becomes like a golden chain that connects us all together. I think that's all I want to say about my purpose in the book. I could probably say a lot. One of the main messages that I pick up from Taoism is that when we can be like water, we can flow through life with a lot of grace, sense of purpose, meaning, fulfillment, ease, and joy. That really resonated with me. I'm a former ecologist. I spent a lot of years living in remote areas of the world, gorgeous, beautiful remote areas on the water, studying water and the animals that live near the water. So I have a tremendous love and connection for water. And many of the essays in the book speak to that, speak to my experience of water. And again, to be like water as a way of cultivating a graceful life. And these movements help us be like water. And we'll get to that just after I do this little reading here. You could take a, maybe shake it out. You've been sitting and listening to me for a while. Shake it out, maybe take 3 of the longest, deepest breaths you've had so far today. While you're taking those breaths, just notice how that is for you. Sometimes slowing down might be uncomfortable or boring or make you feel restless. Sometimes it's just what you've been waiting for, just to slow down and tune in. Okay, we've got the big earth beneath us. I'm sitting on the ground. That's my favorite place to sit. Just feeling, even if you're in a chair, that you're connected to the ground as you listen to this story. This is chapter 32, and I called it Vortex and Splash. Almost daily, I visit my neighborhood river or one of the many creeks that feed into it. I practice putting my attention into the water, the way it moves, how it twists and turns, jumps and splashes, ultimately coming to rest back into itself, deep and still. I learned this way of appreciating water's flow through an extraordinary person whose mission is to protect and conserve water. Back when I was studying in Chengdu, Dave, my friend and internship partner, and I would occasionally go to brunch at the Jinjiang Hotel. Catering to Westerners, the hotel served familiar foods like omelets, bacon, and croissants in an upscale contemporary atmosphere. More than just the comfort food and luxurious indoor heating, we sought refuge in relationships with other English speakers. We'd listen in on conversations, and when the eavesdropping proved interesting, introduce ourselves. One lucky day, we met Betsy Damon, the founder and director of Keepers of the Water. As we brunched together, we learned that through her environmental education nonprofit, Betsy engaged communities, students, scientists, and artists in projects that heighten awareness of the quality, sustainability, and regeneration of water. Part of her passion was making sure people had access to clean water. She had been invited to Chengdu by the Chinese government to design and build the country's first inner city ecological water park, the Living Water Garden. As a former environmental ecologist and now a healthcare practitioner, I was particularly enthusiastic about her project. The Living Water Garden would engage people to witness nature's ability to heal itself and teach residents about the possibility of restoring clean water. I imagined it might also awaken in visitors the realization of their own potential for self-healing, given the right circumstances. When we met, Betsy was laying the groundwork for the 6-acre park. Her vision involved diverting water from the putrid Funan River that runs through the populous city and channeling it through a human-made riverbed that included a wetland, settling pond, and a series of fish and plant ponds. This process would transform the polluted water into potable water. An artist as well as activist, Betsy was designing sculptures she called flow forms, a critical feature of the park's riverbed that would create a vortex motion in the water, much like rocks in a river. Her work was based on the science that shows how water, when moving along a stream or riverbed over a distance, gets aerated and cleansed. Betsy was as interested in us and our study of Chinese medicine as we were in her work. That mutual curiosity and appreciation led to her extending an invitation to join her on her field trips researching streams and rivers in Western China. Having spent years living and doing research in aquatic environments, I was all in. One of my favorite outings was an exploration of the creek that runs through the Wolong National Nature Reserve in the Qionglai Mountains of Sichuan. We made our way over and around the creek's boulders. We stopped frequently to observe how the water flowed and spiraled. The roaring, bubbling water so charged the air that even the hair on my arms stood to attention as we boulder hopped our way up the creek. Here and there, the water slowed into deep, crystal clear turquoise pools that beckoned us to regroup and rest. While we wandered, Betsy sketched the position and shape of the rocks, as well as the patterns the water made as it tumbled and pooled. From her sketches, she created designs for flow form sculptures that would recreate the movement patterns she observed in nature. She then took her designs to a sculptor in Chengdu who carved or cast them in granite or cement. The flow form sculptures would be placed along the park's riverbed, creating a variety of circulation pathways and mini waterfalls. Thanks to the experience of observing water with Betsy, I gained a fresh appreciation and curiosity for its spiraling movement and how it can purify itself by the nature of that movement. Our individual purification is similar. In fact, self-transformation through movement is a key theme in Daoyin. After checking in with myself through a body scan, I begin my personal practice and most Daoyin classes with a twist. A playful movement, twists are easy to do and can be so satisfying. I feel refreshed mentally and physically just from a few simple twists. I've also noticed how often students will engage in a twist quite spontaneously after doing a challenging movement. Like animals that shake vigorously after a stressful or exciting encounter, we too use twists as a reset. Just like the water flowing through Betsy's flow forms in the Living Water Garden, twisting is essential to our health and transformation. When I think about the primal movement of rolling from our backs onto our bellies as babies, to the spiral arrangement of tissues in our heart and blood vessels, it's evident to me that twists and spirals play an essential role in our survival and development. As I've rolled through my own life, many of the choices I've made have been a result of weighing the consequences of what could happen as a result of going this way or that, right or left. Turning toward and away from options, weighing the pros and cons is how I ultimately decide which direction to go. Your journey may be much like mine, full of twists and turns. My life flow has involved repeatedly turning toward or away from situations and choices that didn't serve me well. Now I don't regret the choices that let me down drama-filled or difficult paths. Though I chided myself for repeatedly making the same detrimental choices, they were in truth important opportunities for building awareness, getting feedback, learning, distilling the essence of my values, growing and evolving. Let's check out the results of twisting with a powerful practice for detoxification, Sidewinder. So, thank you for listening. What comes next is a practice with step-by-step instructions and then pictures that were taken by my lovely dear friend, Robin Dreyer, are in there. We won't be doing Sidewinder tonight because it's in the progression of the movements, it's a little more advanced. So we're going to start with the bamboo twist, which is chapter 13. And again, step-by-step instructions with pictures. So every essay is followed by at least 1 or 2, maybe 3 movement practices. And in that way, my intention, my hope was that the book would just carry you along like a stream, would carry you through a story and an understanding of the medicine and the Daoist principle that it was highlighting, and then lead you into a practice so you could experience that for yourself. If you have questions about that reading, I suppose, Patricia, should they just put that in the chat and we'll hold it till the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Super. Thank you. All right. Well, if you're ready, if you have space to do this movement, to come lie down, I'm going to lie down. You don't have to see me, but maybe you want to see me. I've been teaching for 30 years, so I would hope that my instruction is clear. My verbal instruction that you don't need to see me. But when I come to practice Daoyin, I like to practice on something that's firm, but is also has some cushion to it. So I'm laying down a blanket on top of my very fuzzy rug. You can put a yoga mat down and then a blanket. You do want some insulation from the ground. You could also do these practices in bed, as long as you have a firm mattress. So if you can, come to lie down. And if you can't, you can just listen and watch me, and listen in such a way and watch in such a way that you're imagining you're me, so that your little brain cells, your mirror neurons are thinking, oh, that's me. And maybe you'll feel the effect of the movement. So come along, come on down to the ground. As you come to rest, you might notice maybe your head is not comfortable resting clearly on the ground. Maybe you need a little cushion. So you can take as thin a cushion as you can under the head. We'll also be starting, if it's okay for you to stretch your legs out long. Again, you can put a little bolster under your knees if you need to. And if that's just not doable for you, you can stand with your feet on the ground. It's important in this movement practice that you're comfortable throughout. You might feel a stretch, but there's no pain. You're learning about your boundaries in this practice. That's another
principle of Daoyin is to discover what are my boundaries, where are my limits. Then you just start to play with that a little bit and see if you can move beyond them or maybe not. So as you come to rest on the ground, again, just noticing big Mother Earth is underneath you, supporting you 24/7. And just notice how you're coming to rest on the ground. Do you feel like you are clearly in contact with the floor? Or do you feel parts of you are kind of lifted up away from the ground? That's just kind of a snapshot, tuning in. How am I in relation to the ground right now? In theory, places that are lifting up might be carrying a little extra tension. Sometimes that's necessary and sometimes it isn't. Whatever isn't necessary, we're going to work out through the movement. And we'll come back to this position so you can compare. What effect did that movement just have on me? That too is a metaphor, just like in that essay, my choices have an effect on me. And if I can reflect, I can learn from my choices and make new choices, or maybe the same one if it was a good effect. Okay, so again, just noticing parts of me are in contact with the floor, maybe other parts aren't. And we'll just see how that changes. You can let your attention come into your legs, and we're gently going to roll the legs in and out. Oh, actually, I forgot one thing. You can come to let the legs become still again. Just tune into the fact that you're breathing. And as you breathe in, you can be breathing in and out through the nose or through the mouth, or a combination of the two, whatever works for you right now. As that breath comes into your torso, where does it land? Where do you feel that breath moving your body? It might be your chest. You might feel your chest rising up and expanding as you inhale. Or maybe it's your ribs, or your upper belly, or your lower belly. Just come to notice, where do I feel my breath moving most clearly right now? And you can place a hand on that space just to mark it for yourself. Then you can return your hand to the ground. And again, now we'll roll the legs in and out. Just nice and easy, kind of waking up your hips so that we'll come to stand the feet. Walk your legs so that they're touching, inner thighs, inner calves, inner edges of your feet. And if it's okay for you to open your arm shoulder level, palms up or down, doesn't matter. You can stay like this, or if you can cross one leg over the other, that's lovely for this bamboo twist. We have the thighs touching here. Come back to noticing that you're breathing. Breathing in, and when you come to exhale, this next time, you're going to drop your knees to the ground to the left. Let your head go to the right. And you go any amount. Could be a tiny movement, could be a big one. Inhale and push yourself back up with that lower left leg. Return your head to neutral, and here you are back in the starting position, ready for another exhale. And again, you're going to twist the knees down to the ground to the left and your head to the right, any amount. Then inhale, push back up. And we'll go one more time. Exhale, let the knees twist to the left and the head to the right, any amount. And then inhale, push yourself back up with that lower left leg. Take in a little more air here. It's okay for you to hold your breath. Hold it while you make that very same twist, knees to the left, head to the right. And when you get as far as you can go, let the breath out your mouth and just see if you relax a little more into that twist. And then inhale, push yourself back up, come to neutral. Take in as much air as you can and hold the breath as you make the twist. Only if it feels good to you. If it doesn't, you can just keep breathing naturally. When you get as far as you want, you can exhale and relax. It's almost like taking a sigh of relief. Inhale and come up one more time. Big breath in, hold the breath as you make the twist. You can feel the tension that holding the breath makes. And then when you let that held breath go, maybe you can feel the difference of that release. And then we'll inhale and push back up to neutral. This time, exhale out the mouth, and as much as you feel safe to, just flop yourself into the twist. Inhale, push back up slowly. And exhale. Let it rush out the mouth and twist. And go one more time. And inhale, come on up. Now you might be feeling some things you didn't feel before. You can uncross your legs and come to stretch out again. If you had your legs long, you can return your arms alongside your body. And now check it out. Are there parts of you that are now resting on the ground that perhaps weren't before? Does one side feel longer or heavier or wider than the other? And check in with your breathing and just see if that breathing space has shifted at all. And you can place a hand where you feel the breathing now. Maybe it's the same place, maybe it's not. And then you can return your arm by your side and roll the legs in and out. And come to stand the feet. So we've got the other side to do. We'll cross the left over the right and open our arms like wings. And the first set of three is a kind of a sacred number in Taoism. It connects the sacred to the mundane. You can exhale, drop the knees this time to the right and the head goes to the left. Any amount. Inhale and you push yourself back up. And go ahead 2 more times on your own. Slowly exhaling, twisting knees to the right, head to the left. As much or as little as you want, whatever feels good. And inhale, push yourself back up. This next set of 3, you're going to hold the breath as you twist. Then go as far as you want, and then exhale. Maybe you twist a little more. Inhale, push yourself back up. Hold the breath. Twist knees to the right, head to the left, and let the breath go. Inhale, push yourself back up. One last time, hold the breath and twist. Doesn't matter how far you go. Just doing what's right for you. And then inhaling, pushing back up. This time with a whoosh out the mouth, as much as you feel safe to just flop. And third time's the charm. Inhale and come back up. You can uncross your legs and stretch out again. Or not, whatever is best for you. And now just discovering how you feel now. Is more of you on the ground or less? You can check in with your weight. Do you feel heavy or light? A little bit of both. Check in with your length. Do you feel longer, wider? Any sensations that are coming to mind? Tingle, vibration, or maybe something else. Whereabouts do you feel that? And what's it like? Achy, sharp, heavy, light, soft, tense? You can also check in with your state of mind. Some of you might be feeling calmer, more relaxed. Others, maybe the opposite. And finally, check in with your breathing space. It's not uncommon that this practice will move if the breathing space was up above, that it'll move down to the diaphragm or even lower. And you can roll your legs in and out. You can fold your knees and hips, maybe tuck your knees into your chest if that's okay for your back. And give a little rocking side to side. Again, only if that is appropriate for you. Then we come to rest on a side, pick a side, any side. Maybe take a moment here before coming up to sitting once again. So you just had a little movement experience coupled with breathing, coupled with mindfulness, practice of turning your attention towards specific things I invited you to pay attention to. But then you also had an opportunity just to see what came up for you. In my book, I talk about the Chinese characters for this practice of Daoyin. And the main message that's in those characters, the Chinese characters are like little pictures. For example, one of the pictures in the word Dao is a picture of an eye. There's also a little picture that translates as understanding. So seeing ourselves and understanding ourselves. And then another little picture in that Dao character is the character for
the Chinese inch. So you're measuring yourself. These are all metaphorical. So you sure can measure and stretch yourself with the movements, feeling your length, width, breadth. But it's also metaphorical for taking measure of yourself in your life as you say something, do something, think something. What's the consequence of that action? So you're reflecting on that and just seeing what's appropriate for me and what isn't. And maybe I change how I behave. All in an intention to be true to yourself. We have to know who we are to be true to who we are. So these movements are just a way of tuning in and seeing ourselves. Just like when water is super still and calm, you can see yourself in the reflection of it. I'm very eager to hear from you. I would love to hear what effect that practice had on you, if it was challenging, difficult, impossible, uncomfortable, delightful, whatever it was. And any questions you have about the book or the movement practice or Taoism, if I can answer it, I shall. So Patricia, I'm gonna give you the steering wheel again.
Okay, well, thank you so much. That was very relaxing.
Oh, was it relaxing for you? Good.
Yes, it was. I thought, wow, you have a very calming voice, and I got to think about a lot of things too. So that was great. A lot of, when you said, think about what's coming up. I was like, wow,
Mhm.
I have the space to think about what's with that shook loose. So I love that. Thank you so much. And some of the comments, that was lovely, very freeing and expansive. The practice was calming and I feel more spacious. So that very nice. I concur. I concur wholeheartedly. So let's get started. One of the questions that I have here is from Linda. And Linda asks, how much of the Daoyin repertoire of movement and exercises is described in the book?
Haha. What an excellent question, Linda. Thank you for asking that. So, as I mentioned, I am not a scholar of Chinese medicine. My teacher, however, is. And so what's going to come out of my mouth next is my understanding of the teaching that has come through Jeffrey and then through my own research. So I'm going to couple that too. In my book, I think I've delineated 18 or 19 practices. These are all lying down. So the author of that text in the 600s that mentions these Daoyin practices, which were being practiced even before then. So these are really, before the Common Era, some of these Daoyin practices were already recorded. But Chao Yuan Fang put them in his treatise on the origins of disease. That was the text. That's all in the introduction to Be Like Water. But in there, I think he had 191 Daoyin exercises. And they go from lying down, which resonates with our first movements as babies. When we were babies, we only had agency lying down. We couldn't yet sit up. We weren't crawling yet. So that's kind of level one, is lying down practice. That's what's in my book. And only these 19. There are others. In fact, there are many other lying down practices. I put the ones that I have practiced the most and that I've shared with the most and I've observed with students the most. I didn't want to put in things that were not within my grasp of understanding. So the next stage is sitting practice. Then there are standing practices, and then there are walking practices. And Jenny Boyd-Bull is here. So happy you're here. Jenny is, she lives near me and is a fantastic teacher of Qigong and Tai Chi. So that's sort of the walking Daoyin. Daoyin is just an old term. Now it's called Qigong. It's a modern term from the 20th century. Yeah. So thank you, Linda. Did I answer your question? I can see you. So if you nod yes or no, or you can turn your microphone on if you have more of a question. Or maybe not.
So let's
Yeah.
go, let's see, go on to, we're just asking people to post questions.
Oh,
instead of
okay.
unmuting. Yeah.
Thank you,
so-
Patricia.
Yeah, sure, of course. So actually, Jenny had a question that sounds like you were kind of getting to. What's the relationship of Daoyin to Qigong and Hatha yoga?
Oh, well, again, disclaimer. My understanding is that Qigong is a term from the 20th century that it essentially translates as energy cultivation. I think I also talk about Qigong, the characters for Qigong in the book too, Jenny. Daoyin, that's just the name that was given to this practice of moving with the breath, giving yourself attention, self-reflecting, noticing the effects of the movements, and then refining them, which essentially is Qigong, right? So that was just what it was called in ancient or classical times in China, was Daoyin. That's my understanding. And as for Hatha yoga, goodness gracious, so many of these movements are so familiar to Hatha practice. So that transmission from India to China was rich and, centuries in the making. So of course there was some overlap and influence there for sure. I mean, pranayama is extending the life force. Qigong, the same thing. So yeah.
Another question more about your arrival at this practice. First of all, how did you come to this practice and your work? And second, two-parter, second, what made you decide to write a book?
So I was introduced to these practices through my teacher, Jeffrey Yuen, who he is a Daoist monk, and he lives in New York City, but he started coming to Asheville thanks to Sissy Majebi, who runs the clinic on Montford Avenue in Asheville. And she's also the president and the founder of Daoist Traditions College of Chinese Medical Arts, also in Asheville. And Jeffrey is also her teacher. So she started inviting him to come down to North Carolina, founded a school, and then Jeffrey started teaching at the school just maybe 4 times a year. So having already been an avid movement person, when he started offering this, he's offered a lot of different Qigong styles over the years, all of which I've enjoyed. But man, when he got us down on the floor rolling around doing Daoyin, I was just like, I just loved it. Partly because it was so familiar to me, like yoga, like Hatha yoga, and also Alexander technique and Feldenkrais method, both of which I also really, really, really love. So it just resonated for me. Yeah, I didn't write a book about yoga. There are so many good books about yoga on the shelves at Malaprops. And these movements haven't been recorded yet. So at least not to a Western mind. I have looked through what I could get my hands on of the origins on disease. Really couldn't understand the instruction in them, very vague. and also mysteriously written. I didn't understand the references because I'm not Chinese. So I thought, well, I'm going to write a book and make it accessible to people.
What did you learn that may have surprised you during your writing process? Or what was something that changed your mind as a result of the writing process?
I think you can see I'm trying to access that. I think maybe even more than all my training in Chinese medicine and years of therapy, I think writing this book has been the biggest medicine I could have ever taken into my life. That's because it's deeply personal what I wrote, and the original draft was even more personal. So the process of working with my writing coach, Sue Wasserman, who's here, and having really soft, lovely touches from a very dear and supremely influential friend, Abigail DeWitt, who's also here. That was huge medicine. Writing was big medicine. You know, as a teacher, I know if you want to learn whatever you're teaching, teach it. If you teach something, you're gonna have to go deep, dive deep, and get ready, because you're gonna find yourself in places that you have no understanding of, and you're gonna have to find how to understand it so you can share it. And writing was it was an immense journey, and I'm so grateful for the people who supported me through it. That was huge to do that. Thank you for that question. I think a writer offered that question.
Do you think that could you describe for us a little bit, if you feel comfortable, your writing process, and perhaps that changed over time? I don't know.
So again, coming to, I didn't write this book by myself. Again, my writing coach, because I'm not a writer, my writing coach, Sue Wasserman, really really helped me. I would maybe write like something that was 10 pages long, and then Sue and I would meet once a week. She would have read it before we met, and then she would come with edits and really insightful and very skillfully asked questions, so that I could refine what I was trying to say and be sensitive to someone who didn't know anything about what I was talking about and how to make it accessible to them. So having her virgin ears, Sue doesn't know anything about Chinese medicine. I don't know anything about writing. So we put those together, and that was my process. We met every week for 4 years, going essay at a time.
Well, I may have to gently suggest that you are a writer, that you published this book. For sure. You wrote it. You clearly had help based on what you've said,
Yeah.
but that's all writers have that. So that's so I think welcome.
Thank you.
To the Writers Club, right? I think you've arrived.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now that you've been through this process and you're on the other side and you're talking about your book, does that possibly mean you have another project in mind?
Funny you should ask that question, because this morning I got a wild hair to clean off my bookshelves of all of the supporting materials that I used for writing this book. And I thought, I had a big garbage bag and I was like, I'm just going to put it all in here. And then as I was looking at it, I was like, maybe I shouldn't throw that away yet. Maybe I'm going to need that again. So I don't know. I think there is, I shared this with Abigail and Sue and even my friends who are very accomplished, wonderful artists. Now that I've written, it's almost like when I built a house with my first husband. You think you're going to build the thing that you wanted, and then you start living in it and go, oh, this isn't really quite what I wanted. So I kind of feel that way about this book. Like I've outgrown it a little bit at this point. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity perhaps to do a second edition and make some changes to it. But there's also something about yoga that's calling me, since that's my first love. So I don't know. Thank you for asking though.
Do you think you might have a moment to talk to our audience about your 2 book suggestions?
Yeah. So before we started the call, Patricia and Stephanie asked me about books that were of influence to me.
Mhm.
I do have a section in my book at the end that I entitled Further Reading and Research, which has many of the texts that really I found indispensable in writing this book. But one of my favorites is the Tao Te Ching by Jiafu Feng and Jane English. And I know I've seen that on the shelves at Malaprop's, but the thing I love about this book is that not only does it have the translation from the Chinese text, so it has the characters, if you read Chinese, which I don't read well anymore, and then some beautiful photography of nature. So I particularly love this Daoist text, the Tao Te Ching, and water is referenced in many, many of its chapters. The other one, this was given to me by my friend Joe Hollis. I have read it a lot. I've got a lot of notes in it. It's called Wandering on the Way. And this is by another very revered, well, the Daoists claim him, the Confucian folks claim him too, but Zhuangzi is the author of this book. And then there are, like, you can look on that list on the back. There are lots of really good books. I'm not sure. Some of them are more esoteric than others. They're deep dives, my friends, deep dives. And you can read them over and over for the rest of your life and still keep gleaning something from them.
Well, I think the term deep dive and a book that's all about water as symbol and metaphor sounds completely appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I leave with a poem?
I would love that. That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So speaking of the Tao Te Ching, I thought I would read to you passage number 8. This is not anybody's direct translations. This is Margot's favorite version of this cherry-picked translation. The supreme goodness is like water. It benefits all things without contention. In dwelling, it stays grounded. In being, it flows to depths. In expression, it is honest. In confrontation, it stays gentle. In governance, it does not control. In action, it aligns to timing. It is content with its nature. It does not strive, and therefore can never go wrong. thank you all. Oh, thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you all.
I hope your time with us has been nourishing to you in some way. Lovely to see you. Big hug, big hug. Thank you, Malaprop's bookstore. You guys have been amazing to work with. Oh, yay. Now I'm just seeing who's here. Lovely.
Thank you so much, Margot. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Patricia.
you. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure to watch your practice.